The girls crept through the empty halls, their footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust on the floor. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves were alive with secrets. They finally found the staircase leading down to the basement. The door at the bottom was locked, but Lerato pulled a bobby pin from her pocket. "Where did you learn that?" Zanil asked, impressed. "Tabo's not the only one with skills," Lerato replied with a smirk as the lock clicked open. The basement was dark and damp, the faint hum of a generator echoing in the distance. Rows of metal shelves lined the room, each filled with dusty files and folders. "Start looking for anything about the protests," Lerato said, grabbing a folder at random. For what felt like hours, they sifted through stacks of papers, uncovering old government memos and censored news articles. Finally, Zanil let out a gasp. "Lerato, look at this." She held up a faded file labeled Operation Silence. Inside were documents detailing how the police had targeted student protesters, including surveillance photos of Mamikit and her friends. They knew about them. Lerato whispered, her stomach twisting. They were watching their every move. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the staircase. "Someone's coming," Zanil hissed. Lerato stuffed the file into her bag. "Let's hide." They ducked behind a row of shelves just as the basement door creaked open. A flashlight beam swept across the room, and heavy boots thudded on the concrete floor. "Who's down here?" a voice demanded. Lerato held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The beam of light moved closer, illuminating the very shelf they were hiding behind. Just as the guard reached their hiding spot, a loud crash came from upstairs. "What the guard muttered, turning and rushing back up the stairs. "That must be Tabo," Zanil whispered. "Let's go before they come back," Lerato said, pulling Zanil toward the staircase. They climbed out through the same window they had entered and found Tabo waiting for them behind a nearby wall. "What did you do?" Lerato asked. "I knocked over a whole stack of chairs in the lobby," Tabo said with a grin. "Figured you might need a diversion." Lerato patted his shoulder. "Good timing. We found something big. Let's get out of here." As they hurried back to Lerato's house, a strange sensation washed over her. She felt as if they were being watched, though she couldn't see anyone following them. When they reached her room, Lerato emptied the contents of her bag onto her desk. The Operation Silence file lay open, its damning evidence staring back at them. "This is it," Lerato said, her voice filled with determination. "This is the proof Mamikit wanted us to find. But what do we do with it?" Tabo asked. "We expose it," Lerato said. "The world needs to know the truth." As they plotted their next move, Lerato's camera sat on the desk, its lens glowing faintly in the dim light. A soft whisper filled the room. "You're almost there." Lerato stared at her camera, a chill running down her spine, urging her forward. "What's wrong?" Zanil asked, noticing the look on her face. Lerato blinked, shaking herself out of the trance. "Nothing. I thought I heard something." Tabo, who had been pacing nervously, stopped and leaned over the file on the desk. "We can't let this sit here. We need to show the world what we found. If we sit on it, they'll just bury it again." "But how do we get it out?" Zanil asked, worry lining her voice. "The government is everywhere. The media is controlled. This could get us in serious trouble." Lerato's fingers traced the edge of the file. "We go to the underground journalists. They've been fighting the system for years. They'll help us." Tabo frowned. "But how do we find them? We can't just walk up to anyone and ask." Lerato turned her attention back to her camera. There was something strangely comforting about it now. Maybe it was the way it had shown her the past, or maybe it was Mamikit's spirit guiding her. "I have a contact," Lerato said, standing up. "A friend who works in the media. He'll know someone who can help." Her heart raced as she grabbed her bag and stuffed the file inside. "We don't have much time. We need to move fast." The group left the house and headed to the local cafe, a small, inconspicuous place where people went to talk without fear of being overheard. Lerato spotted her friend, Saifo, sitting at the back, hunched over a laptop. "Saifo," she called, walking over to his table. He looked up, his face lighting up in recognition. "Lerato. It's been too long. What's going on?" We need your help, Lerato said urgently. This, she pulled the file from her bag and placed it in front of him. This is the truth about what happened to Mamikit and her friends. We need to get it to the right people. Saifo's eyebrows shot up as he glanced at the documents. Where did you get this? It doesn't matter, Tabo said, glancing around nervously. We just need to make sure it gets out. We can't let this be swept under the rug again. Saifo looked at the file, then at the three of them. He sighed, then closed his laptop. You're right. The truth needs to come out. But this is dangerous. I know some people who can help, but they'll be watching us. You'll need to be careful. We know, Zanil said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. But we're ready. Saifo pulled out a small notepad and wrote down an address. Go here. It's a safe house for activists. From there they'll help you get it to the right people. Just don't make any mistakes. Lerato nodded, her determination clear. We won't. As they left the cafe, the air outside felt thick with tension. Lerato's mind raced with thoughts of what might happen next. She had come this far and she wasn't going to back down now. When they arrived at the address Saifo had given them, they were greeted by a middle-aged man named Duma. His face was solemn, his eyes wary. You're the ones with the file? He asked. Lerato nodded, handing him the documents. We need to make sure this goes public. Duma took the file and examined it carefully. Then nodded. You've done well to bring this to us. But understand, once it's out, there's no turning back. They'll come after you. We're ready, Tabo said, his voice unwavering. Duma led them to a small room in the back of the house where several other activists were gathered. The walls were lined with old newspapers and photos of protests, some of them faded, others just as fresh as the day they were taken. This is where the fight continues, Duma said, handing the file to a young woman with short hair and glasses. She was typing furiously on a laptop, her eyes darting between the screen and the papers in front of her. She took the file, looking up briefly. I'll make sure this gets out, she said quietly. The air in the room seemed to hold its breath as the young woman worked. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Finally, she looked up, her face grim but resolute. It's done, she said. The world will know the truth. They won't be able to hide it anymore. Lerato felt a wave of relief wash over her. But it was quickly followed by a heavy sense of dread. What now? Zanil asked, her voice barely above a whisper. We wait, Duma said. But be prepared. The authorities will come for you. They'll try to silence you. Lerato nodded, though her heart pounded in her chest. We've already come this far. We won't stop now. As they left the safe house, the streets of Soweto felt different, almost like a weight had been lifted. But Lerato knew the battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. Later that night, Lerato sat in her room, staring at her camera once again. A soft voice echoed in her mind, like a distant whisper. The truth is louder than they think. And with that, Lerato knew her journey wasn't finished. There were more secrets to uncover, more stories to tell. And she would be the one to make sure the ghosts of Soweto were never forgotten. The next few days passed in a blur. The streets of Soweto felt tense, like everyone was waiting for something to happen. Lerato kept her phone close, expecting a call or message from Saifo or Duma. But the silence was deafening. The media had yet to pick up on the story, and the authorities seemed to be keeping a tight grip on the flow of information. Lerato spent hours in her room, editing photographs from her camera. Each image now seemed to have a deeper meaning, capturing moments of pain, struggle, and triumph that weren't visible to the naked eye. Her camera had become more than just a tool. It was a bridge to the past, a way to communicate with Mamikit and the others who had fought for change. One afternoon, as Lerato was developing photos in her darkroom, there was a knock on the door. She jumped, her heart racing. It had been a few days since they'd handed over the file, and she wasn't sure if the knock signaled good news or bad. She opened the door slowly, only to find Tabo standing there, looking unusually serious. We need to talk, he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Lerato closed the door behind him. What's going on? Something's wrong, Tabo said, his voice low. I've been hearing rumors that they're looking for us. Who? Zanil asked, appearing from the other room. The government, Tabo said. I overheard a conversation at the local market. People are talking about a crackdown on activists. If they find us, he didn't need to finish the sentence. Lerato felt her stomach tighten. But the story hasn't even broken yet. Why would they come after us now? Because they know we're involved, Tabo replied. They know we helped get the file out. They won't stop until they silence everyone. Lerato's mind raced. She had hoped that once the truth was out, things would change, but now it seemed like they were just getting started. We can't hide forever. Zanil said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. If they're coming for us, we need to make a plan. Lerato nodded, trying to gather her thoughts. We have to be careful. We can't just run. We need to get the message out to more people, make sure they can't stop it. Tabo paced the room. We can't just sit here and wait. I know a place where we can meet more people, activists who've been organizing in secret for years. It's not much, but it's safer than staying here. Lerato felt a flicker of hope. Okay, let's go there tonight. The sooner the better. The three of them quickly packed bags with essentials, food, water, and their phones, and left the house, slipping out the back door to avoid drawing attention. The streets of Soweto were eerily quiet, and every shadow seemed to hide something. Lerato couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. As they made their way to the meeting point, Lerato's camera felt heavier in her bag. She knew it held more than just photographs. It held the ghosts of their struggle, the voices of the past demanding to be heard. They arrived at an old warehouse on the edge of town. The building was abandoned, its windows boarded up and the door chained shut. Tabo knocked twice, then waited. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, and an older woman with graying hair peered out. You made it, she said, her voice rough but welcoming. Come inside quickly. The woman led them down a narrow hallway to a dimly lit room where several other activists were gathered. Maps and documents were scattered across a large table, and the room buzzed with quiet conversation. This is Lerato, Tabo, and Zanil, the woman introduced them. They've brought important information. We've been expecting you. Lerato's heart skipped a beat. They've been expecting us. The woman motioned for them to sit. The authorities are tightening their grip, but we've been organizing in the shadows for years. We know how to fight back. But we need everyone to stand together. If we let fear control us, then we've already lost. Lerato looked around the room at the faces of the activists. Some were older, their faces marked by time and hardship, while others were young, their eyes bright with determination. They had all fought for change in their own ways, and now they were all bound by a single purpose: to ensure that the truth could never be silenced again. One of the younger men at the table stood up and spoke with a fierce intensity. We need to hit them where it hurts. We'll get the story out to every news outlet, every social media platform. We'll make it impossible for them to bury the truth again. But we need your help, Lerato. Lerato felt her throat tighten. What do you want me to do? We need you to take more photos. You've seen the ghosts of the past, you've seen the pain, the violence, and the resistance. We need those images to reach the world. The people need to see the truth. Lerato's hands trembled as she reached for her camera. She had already captured so much, but now she knew that the photos were more than just memories, they were weapons in a fight for justice. She raised the camera to her eye, focusing on the faces around her. She saw the same determination in their eyes that she had seen in Mamikite's. And with that, she knew she couldn't stop now. The ghosts of Soweto had spoken to her, and she would make sure their voices were heard. The woman with graying hair placed a hand on Lerato's shoulder. We'll stand together no matter what. The truth will always find a way out. Lerato nodded, her resolve hardening. The fight was far from over, but now she had an army of voices behind her. She wasn't alone anymore. The following days passed in a blur of secrecy and tension. Lerato, Tabo, and Zanil continued meeting with a group of activists in the hidden warehouse, carefully avoiding the eyes of the authorities. Every night they gathered to strategize. And every morning they sent out messages and photographs, trying to get the truth to as many people as possible. The walls of Soweto had ears, but the whispers of their struggle were starting to reach beyond the township. Lerato had become more than just a photographer. She had become a symbol of resistance. Her camera was no longer just a tool, It was the weapon that could bring the ghosts of Soweto to life, exposing the truth that the government desperately wanted to keep buried. She spent hours in the darkroom, developing photos that revealed the untold stories of her people. Stories of loss, pain, and triumph that no one could ignore. But with each photo the danger grew. The authorities were tightening their grip on Soweto, and Lerato could feel their presence everywhere. It was like a storm, dark and menacing, slowly creeping toward her, threatening to swallow everything she had worked for. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Tabo rushed to the warehouse with a look of panic on his face. "They know," he said out of breath. "I overheard them talking. They know we're here. We have to move, now." Lerato's heart sank. She knew this moment would come. But she had hoped they would have more time. Time to finish what they had started. Time to make sure that the truth could never be silenced. "We can't go. Not yet," Lerato said, her voice trembling with urgency. "We have to get the photographs out first. People need to see what we've uncovered. We can't leave now." Zanil stood up, her expression fierce. "Lerato's right. We've come too far. We can't just run and hide." Tabo looked between them, his face filled with fear and doubt. "You don't understand. They've already started arresting people in other parts of Soweto. We've got to get out before they come for us." Lerato stood her ground. "If we run, they win. We have to finish this. We'll find another way to get the photos out. But we can't back down now." Tabo's eyes softened, though his fear was still palpable. "Then we fight," he said, his voice steadying. For the first time in days, Lerato felt a spark of hope. Together they were stronger. They had each other. And they had the truth. The ghosts of Soweto were counting on them, and they couldn't let them down. "We'll go to the local radio station," Zanil suggested, her voice determined. "If we can get the photos broadcasted, we can reach the entire township in one go." Lerato nodded, the plan forming in her mind. The radio station was a vital link, a lifeline that could help them bypass the government's control. But it wasn't without its risks. The authorities had eyes everywhere, and the station staff could be compromised at any moment. "We'll do it tonight," Lerato said, taking a deep breath. "But we have to move quickly. Tabo, can you get us inside?" Tabo hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I can. But we need to be careful. If we're caught, it's over." The group packed their bags quickly, making sure to take only what they needed. They couldn't afford to carry anything that would give them away. With the photos safely tucked away in Lerato's camera, they set out under the cover of darkness. The streets of Soweto were eerily quiet as they made their way to the radio station. The occasional sound of distant footsteps echoed through the empty streets. And Lerato couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She gripped her camera tightly, her fingers itching to capture more moments of the world around her. They reached the station's building without incident, a tall, gray structure that stood like a fortress against the night. Tabo led them to the back entrance, where a guard stood, lazily leaning against the doorframe. Tabo exchanged a few quiet words with him, and the guard let them in without question. Seemed too easy. Once inside, they crept through the darkened hallways, making their way toward the broadcasting room. The air was thick with tension, and every step they took felt like a move closer to danger. They reached the door to the broadcasting room, but before they could push it open, they heard voices inside. "I don't know," a man's voice said. "They're coming for us for sure. We just have to be ready." Lerato's heart raced. The man sounded like he was talking about them. Their mission was compromised. "We need to move," she whispered urgently. "Now." Zanil's eyes were wide with panic, but she nodded, her resolve hardening. "This is it. We can't wait any longer." With no other choice, they pushed open the door and rushed inside. The DJ at the station looked up in surprise, but before he could react, Tabo pulled a gun from his jacket and pointed it at him. "Don't make a sound," Tabo ordered. "We're not here to hurt you. We just need you to broadcast something for us." The DJ's eyes widened in fear, but he nodded. "I can't do that. You'll get me killed." "We'll make sure you're safe," Lerato said, her voice firm. "But you have to help us." Tabo stepped closer, his voice low. "If you don't help us, you won't survive this either. They'll come for you. They'll come for all of us." The DJ swallowed hard, then slowly nodded. What do you want me to do? Lerato stepped forward and handed him her camera. Play these photos on the air. Show the world the truth. The room fell silent. Lerato's heart pounded in her chest. This was it. The moment of truth. The ghosts of Soweto were finally going to speak. The photo on the screen flickered briefly before it came into full view. It was one of Lerato's most haunting images. A young boy no older than 5, standing in front of a crumbling building. His face was shadowed, his eyes wide with fear. A faint, translucent figure hovered behind him, its features indistinguishable like a shadow from the past. The boy's expression spoke volumes: loss, confusion, and the deep weight of a history that had been buried. Lerato held her breath as the DJ stared at the image, his fingers trembling over the controls. "Oh, who is this?" the DJ asked, his voice breaking the silence. His eyes darted between the image and the group standing in the room, the camera, the hidden message they had brought to life. "His name is Saifo," Lerato said quietly, stepping closer. "He was one of the children who disappeared during the violence of the 1976 uprisings. His parents never knew what happened to him. But he's not the only one." The DJ's eyes widened as more images flashed on the screen. Older, weathered photos, some taken in the dead of night, others in broad daylight. All showing people from different eras. The ghosts of Soweto, all victims of violence, all silenced by the oppressive systems that ruled the land. The faces were etched in pain, in longing, in anger. And behind them, a chilling presence seemed to linger, an unseen force that carried the weight of generations. The DJ slowly turned to face Lerato. "What do you want me to do with these?" "Broadcast them to the world," she replied, her voice steady but urgent. "Tell them everything. That the ghosts have returned to speak. That the people who were lost, who were erased, will not be forgotten." The DJ hesitated for a moment, glancing nervously at the door, as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. This is dangerous. If they find out." Lerato grabbed his arm, her grip firm. "If we don't do this, then everything we've fought for will be in vain. Our people will keep suffering, and the truth will stay buried forever. Please." The DJ looked at her, his face torn between fear and resolve. He nodded slowly. "All right. I'll do it." The hum of the equipment seemed to grow louder as the DJ switched on the broadcast. The images of the lost children, the tortured faces, the memories of Soweto's darkest days began to play on the airwaves. The music was cut, replaced by the chilling silence of the truth being revealed. Outside, the streets of Soweto fell eerily still. People gathered at their radios, drawn by the unsettling broadcast. The words, the images, the cries of the past were being heard louder than ever. The ghosts of Soweto were speaking, and they would not be silenced. But as Lerato watched the DJ's hand steady on the controls, she felt a chill down her spine. The storm was coming. The authorities would not stand by and let this broadcast continue. They had already been too exposed. Suddenly, the door to the station burst open. A group of armed men in black uniforms stormed inside. Their faces were cold, their eyes scanning the room with suspicion. The leader, a tall man with sharp features, stepped forward, his eyes locking onto Tabo's gun. "I thought I heard something," the man said, his voice low and threatening. "What's going on here?" For a split second, time seemed to stop. Lerato's heart pounded in her chest, her mind racing. She knew the risks. She had always known that this moment would come. But it was happening too soon. Too quickly. The DJ didn't flinch. He kept his eyes fixed on the control panel, pretending to adjust the volume. Tabo stepped forward, his voice cold and calm. "We're just here to broadcast some important news. Nothing to worry about." The leader's eyes narrowed. "News?" He scanned the room, his gaze settling on the camera equipment and the images still playing on the screen. What kind of news? Lerato's mind raced. They had to buy time. She had to protect the broadcast no matter what. With a quick glance, she noticed a stack of papers on the desk beside the DJ. She grabbed them and began flipping through them, pretending to be busy. Zanil moved next to the DJ, subtly turning the dial on the radio station's equipment to make the transmission appear normal. "We're just showing some photos of Soweto's history," Tabo said, his voice rising slightly to draw attention away from the images on the screen. People need to remember what happened here. It's part of the past, but it's important, especially for the children. The leader paused, eyeing Tabo for a long moment. Then he turned, scanning the rest of the room. It seemed like an eternity before he finally spoke. History, he muttered, his voice almost a growl. You'll be history if you don't shut this down now. The air crackled with tension. Lerato's eyes flicked between Tabo and the leader, waiting for a move, an opening. She had to protect the truth, the memory of those lost. She had to make sure the ghosts of Soweto were never erased again. And then, without warning, the lights flickered. The power in the building surged and the broadcast was cut off. The room plunged into darkness. Get them, the leader shouted, his voice furious. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed as the soldiers rushed forward. But in the chaos, something strange happened. The room grew cold. The temperature dropped, and the air seemed to hum with an eerie energy. Then Lerato heard it, the faintest sound like whispers from beyond. The ghosts of Soweto were not finished. As the soldiers stumbled in confusion, the walls seemed to groan, the air thick with the presence of those who had died too soon. The spirits had come to protect their story, to ensure that the truth would never be silenced again. In that moment the soldiers faltered. The whispers grew louder, more distinct. The room was filled with the ghostly echoes of a past that refused to die. The battle for Soweto's soul had just begun. The darkness that enveloped the room was thick, suffocating. The whispers seemed to echo from every corner, a chorus of voices that filled the space with a haunting intensity. Lerato felt a cold shiver crawl up her spine, but it wasn't just the chill of the air. It was the presence of something ancient, something that had waited far too long to be heard. The soldiers paused, their rifles aimed at the door, their eyes wide in confusion. The leader's stern expression flickered for a moment as though he too was uncertain about what was happening. He raised his hand, signaling the others to stop. "What's going on?" he demanded, his voice trembling slightly as the whispers grew louder, more distinct. "Who's doing this?" Tabo, standing at the center of the room, was frozen. His hand hovered near the control panel, but it wasn't his touch that seemed to have caused the disturbance. It was something else, something beyond their understanding. Lerato could feel it now. The ghosts were here and they were angry. Without warning, one of the monitors flickered back to life. The first image that appeared on the screen was of a man with deep, hollow eyes, his face scarred, his body wrapped in chains. His mouth moved, though no sound emerged from his lips. But Lerato knew what he was saying. "They can't silence us. We are the voices of the forgotten." Then the scene changed. The camera shifted, showing a group of people, a family standing in front of a crumbling house. Their faces were worn with grief, but they were proud, unyielding. Behind them, a tall figure stood, watching them with sad eyes. It was Saifo, the boy from the earlier photo. He was standing there, his small hand clutching a wooden doll, the same doll that had appeared in the photo she had taken earlier. Lerato's heart skipped a beat as the doll seemed to move, ever so slightly, as if it had a life of its own. "They're here," Zanil whispered, her voice barely audible over the rising noise. "The spirits, they've come to make their presence known." The leader's face was pale now, his eyes darting from the monitor to the walls. What is this?" Lerato stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "This is the truth. The story of Soweto's ghosts. The people who died, the families who were torn apart. Their voices are trapped in the walls, in the air, in the very fabric of this place. You have no idea what you're messing with." The leader growled, his hand tightening on his rifle. "Shut it down now or we'll make you." But the air grew colder still. Lerato watched as the walls seemed to tremble, the very foundation of the room shaking under the weight of an unseen force. And then the whispers grew louder, almost deafening. They no longer sounded like whispers. It was as if the voices were speaking directly to her. The voices of the lost. The voices of those who had fought for freedom, for justice, and had paid the ultimate price. Lerato closed her eyes, trying to steady herself as the words echoed in her mind. "We were here first. We will never be forgotten." When she opened her eyes, the soldiers were no longer in the center of the room. Lerato froze with fear. Zanel and Tabo muttered, "They've come for us. How do we escape this?" Lerato woke with a start, gasping for air, her heart racing. She was back in her room, surrounded by the familiar walls of her small apartment in Soweto. The camera lay on the floor beside her. Its lens pointed up at the ceiling, as if it had been watching her during the entire vision. Tabo was standing by the door, his face pale with fear. "Lerato," he said softly, his voice full of concern. "Are you okay? You were screaming in your sleep. It looked like you were in pain." Lerato sat up, her hands trembling as she reached for the camera. It was just a dream, wasn't it? A dream, or was it something more? She could still feel the weight of that place, the hollow echoes of the past reverberating in her mind. "I don't know, Tabo," she whispered, her voice hoarse. It felt real. It felt like I was really there, in Soweto, but not the way it is now. It was like I was walking through a memory, one that wasn't mine. Tabo knelt beside her, his expression filled with worry. "Lerato, maybe you're pushing yourself too hard. This camera, it's messing with your mind. What if all these ghosts, all these visions, are just your mind playing tricks on you?" But Lerato shook her head, her eyes wide with a deep, unshakable certainty. "No, Tabo. It's not just in my head. I saw things I shouldn't know about. I saw Mamikit in the past, and she was trying to tell me something. I don't know what, but I have to figure it out." Tabo sighed, rubbing his forehead in frustration. "You're talking about a woman who's been dead for years, Lerato. And now you're seeing her in these dreams? In these visions? What if it's dangerous? What if the camera is pulling you into something that you're not supposed to understand?" Lerato felt a pang of fear in her chest, but she pushed it down. She had to keep going. She had to find out what Chalafilo was trying to tell her, and what her family's connection to all of this was. "I have to go back," she said quietly, her voice filled with determination. "I have to go back to that street. Back to the past. I need to understand what happened to her. To my family, to this place." Tabo looked at her, his eyes filled with worry. "Lerato, I'm begging you. Don't do this. Whatever is going on, it's bigger than we understand. You might be opening doors you can't close." But Lerato didn't listen. She picked up the camera, clutching it tightly in her hands. She knew she couldn't stop now. The ghosts of the past were calling to her, and she couldn't turn away. "Tabo, I have to do this. You don't have to come with me, but I have to go." Reluctantly, Tabo nodded. "I can't stop you, but just promise me you'll be careful." Lerato gave him a faint smile, though her heart was heavy with the fear of the unknown. "I will. I promise." The next day, Lerato found herself standing on the street she had seen in her vision. The buildings around her were old and run down, just like they had been in her dream. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the street seemed eerily silent, as if the world around her was holding its breath. She exclaimed, "So this is real."
If this story stirred your heart or sent a chill down your spine, don't walk away quietly. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and let your ears be ready for the stories yet to come. Like the video, share it with those who love African tales, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. This is Olaide, your storyteller from the heart of Africa. Until the fire is lit again, stay curious.